let's look then at Buddha's view about the four main ways that our present actions will ripen in the future. Four main ways. We're talking future lives. But you'll even see there's lots of these can happen in this present life. So the four main ways, if you look at your life now, you're going to divide our life into four kind of compartments or categories. The first one, the very first one, the result of the main negative action or positive action, in our case a positive action, is that our mind, when it died in the past life, not more than a few weeks before our mind found its way to our present mummy's fallopian tube, where it met our daddy's sperm, before we stopped breathing in the past life, a very strong virtuous karmic seed from our intentional non-killing practice in the past, millions of those seeds in that particular bank vault. One of those was triggered, which already that second, before we even stopped breathing, triggered that seed, which already programmed us to go to our present mummy's human womb a few weeks later, already determined by us. Second, at that same time was also triggered all the karmic seeds in the second category, the second compartment of our lives. If you look into your mind, you've got lots of tendencies. Good ones and bad ones. You lie, you get lazy, you kill, you steal, you're loving, you're generous, you're intelligent, you play good music. We've got a whole bunch of tendencies, our personality traits. So, of course, the commonest interpretation of this, if we're a materialist, is we got them from mummy and her genes and things like that. Well, you didn't, Buddha said. You got them from yourself, babe. They're a bunch of your habits. They were triggered from your own past habit of doing and saying and thinking those things in many different lifetimes. And those bank vaults will trigger those particular seeds that then will cause you to have that personality when you find your way to your mummy's womb. All our tendencies, in other words, to be good at music or good at killing, are already triggered well and truly before we came to our mother's egg and sperm. They're our own tendencies, our own habits. The third little bank vault seeds that are triggered were then the ones that will then produce in this life, and have a look at it now, the next level of our lives is all the way we are seen and treated by others. We've got our body, human, fruit of our past actions. All our tendencies, fruit of our past actions. And now we're very social beings. We get born in a mother's womb. We have a father. We have siblings, aunties, uncles, next door neighbours, people at school, in the neighbourhood. We have, up until now in our life, we've made contact with lots and lots and lots of sentient beings. Animals, humans, insects. And the way they see us and treat us, that is the fruit of actions like that to them in the past. So the first one's called the fully ripened result, our type of rebirth. The second is our tendencies or our habits similar to the cause, having done them before. The third is the experiences similar to the cause of having done them before, but such that now they happen back to me. So karma is really personal because we're social beings. We're always interacting with each other, always doing things to each other, hurting each other, being kind to each other, and our next life we get the results of that, or in many lives. Now extend your life out further and you will see we live in an environment. We're not just floating around in the sky, are we? We have houses and earth and sky and stars and moons and flowers and food and weather. And some environments are ugly, some are beautiful, some are clean, like Zurich, you know. Don't just take it for granted. It's the fruit of actions that cause the environment to impact you in a certain way. So basically Buddha's saying, all the very way your environment impacts upon you, harmfully or well, the fruit of your past actions. The way that sentient beings see you, treat you, harm you, love you, whatever, is the fruit of your past actions. All your own tendencies, what you think and feel and what you want to do and say and everything else, all your own past actions. And your own humanity, the result of your past actions. So knowing, taking this as your view, the law of karma, then it is utterly logical that of course I wouldn't want to kill, lie, steal. Why? I don't want that future suffering. Thank you very much. Just like you would not want to smoke because you don't want cancer. The same logic. That's the basis of understanding karma. And that's the basis, junior school, entry level, grade 1 Buddhist practice. And it's for one's own sake. So to get this logic clear, you know, it's not an easy hypothesis to have. So rather than not killing because Buddha said, that's just childish. It's not the point. It's because I don't want future suffering. You don't just not smoke because your doctor said. because you have faith in her wisdom that says it could cause cancer. So here we've got to have some confidence, and then slowly we take it as a hypothesis, and then gradually as we progress spiritually, we will get to understand the logic of this, and we'll experience the truth of it for ourselves. That's the essence of karma. Any questions before we have lunch? Go, Sasha.
Just doing a list of kind of my positive habits.
Yes.
But then it's still attached to the I, to the ego, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but that's more advanced. So given that we've got ego right now, we still do have virtuous qualities, so we should own them and look at them. And as we get more advanced, we can get rid of the root of the deeper delusion later. So one step at a time. It's really important. Do you understand? So this view of karma, then of course it refers to all the good things as well. But you know what I find fascinating all over the world, in every country, from every human being's mouth? We all talk about only the bad things. And we only think of karma as when bad things happen. It's very curious. So in other words, I've never had a person say, you mean that beautiful little girl with a beautiful mother and a beautiful father and kind siblings and a lovely house and food in the fridge and a good education and money in the bank and wonderful vacations and lovely environment, you mean she deserves it? Do you hear me? Do you even hear? Some of you don't even hear what I'm saying? Tell me honestly, do you even hear what I mean? You're being too embarrassed to say something. No. Did you hear what I mean? The point of what I just said. What's the point? Why did I say it like that? Huh? You.
That we could actually see all the good fortune that we...
No, I know, but what I'm getting, the point I'm making when I said that, you didn't get. What I'm getting at is, if you hear about a little girl who has a mean father who abuses her and lives in an ugly house and has no money in the bank and the children at school are mean to her and lives in an ugly environment, we hear karma and people say, oh, you mean she deserves that? That's what everyone says. So what I said is no one ever asked the opposite question about good conditions, because we only think of karma when bad things happen. That's my point. Are you hearing me now? Are you sure? Yes. We only think of the bad things, and this is it's like the bizarre irony of ego, that we run like a magnet to the misery, you know. Because if we thought even for one day, like your point, Sasha, it's really profound, you know. If you look at your life and you see that you've got these good qualities and good things, you've got tendencies, good tendencies, then you should be really very, very, very happy with yourself. Because it's a fact. When you look at the world and people killing and raping and stealing and going crazy on the streets with drugs because their minds are so overwhelmed with suffering, not criticizing, then you'll compare, wow, I must be so fortunate. I must have practiced some ethics in the past. How amazing. I should rejoice in this and keep practicing. And then when you can rejoice in your good qualities, it's easy to own your rubbish ones. But if we only bash ourselves for our bad qualities, we break our backs and it's too depressing, you know. And that's what we all do to ourselves. It's kind of ironic. Do you understand? So let's just look at some of the results. So, for example, the 4 results, for example, of merely the most powerful action of conscious, intentional, non-killing, okay? Which would have been practiced in the context of keeping vows of morality, and I'll talk about this after lunch. It's really potent. The karmic result of strong, intentional, non-killing. 1, a human life as opposed to a dog's life. 2, you'll wake up in this life with no thought to kill. You'll be like that little friend of mine, I always quote this story, he's sitting there, 3 years old, his mummy is taking the lice out of his head, and he's crying with compassion for the lice. Mummy, leave them alone, it's their home, don't hurt them. And since he's 40-something now and has never killed a living being, that for the Buddha is the logical deduction. He's lived in the vows of not killing, such that he wakes up in this life with the residual result of non-killing, no thought to kill. And you look at the planet, most people kill something. Even most religions say it's okay to kill creatures. I'm not criticizing. So it's like a miracle to not want to kill. It's incredible, amazing. The third one, the experience similar to the cause of non-killing, and we've all got that one so far, is you don't get killed and you don't die young. Well, so far so good. We're still here, aren't we? So our non-killing karma from the experience point of view, petrol tank hasn't run out yet. So be very happy. And the fourth one, environmental karmic result of non-killing. Clearly you've got it in Zurich in general, maybe individuals haven't. that the food nourishes you, the air is relatively unpolluted, the water is pure and clean. That's the direct result of your collective karma, each of you, of non-killing in the past. Every action has any of these four results, good or bad. So literally Buddha is saying we are the creators of our own reality, you know. It's kind of a powerful view. Shocking, actually. I've got to get used to it. Think it through, you know. The point, too, I've found, certainly becoming from being a Catholic or a communist, all those things, always blaming everybody else for everything. Now this one, for me, the really powerful implication of taking the view of karma is the one of accountability. I mean, if you look at, this is our finding interesting point. If you look in your bank, you don't say, how dare there be no dollars in my bank? I deserve dollars. Now, why wouldn't you say that? This is the point. Why wouldn't you say that? Why? Where's it come from? Thank you. It's your bank account. So what's in that bank is what you put there. And what's in that bank that isn't there is you didn't put it there. So you own responsibility, don't you? That's the point about karma. So your garden, you don't say, how dare there are weeds in my garden? Who put weeds in my garden? We know we don't say that because we know what's in the garden isn't what I put there. That's the same with karma. It's a very simple analogy. This is our bank account. This is our garden. And what's in this life? What's in my mind, what happens to me, what people do to me, and what the environment is, it's the seeds that I planted. It is not a difficult concept, but it's kind of mind-blowing. It's completely the opposite. There's some aspect of that in Christianity. You sow what you reap. That's true. There's accountability in that way. But there's nothing in the materialist view. There's no view at all in the materialist view about this. There's only blame, only pointing fingers, you know, because there's no recognition of any coherence at all, any law of why bad things happen. We haven't found the answers yet, with respect to us. Are we communicating here? Any questions? Yes. 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 I understand, yes. 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 Exactly. Yes. I understand. I understand. Mm-hmm. I understand. I understand. There's completely separate things. They're two separate things. So what there is now, today's garden right now, what's in this garden, called Switzerland, which is your karma, say, as a collection of a group of people, is the fruit of actions like that each of you did individually in the past, that you ripen as the result of the group. I mean, the pedophile next door, right, has the same pure water as you do. So there's explanations for why he's a pedophile, but the one explanation for why both got pure water is at one point in past lives, collectively, you created the cause of not killing that causes the result environmentally. The cause of having pure water and good food, enriching food, nourishing food, pure air, good environment is non-killing. So you've all, there's millions of lives, remember? So collectively, you together from countless past lives have, all of you in Zurich have created a similar cause to all be tasting the same pure water. But there might be one kid who goes and buys the same peanuts that you do from a fresh peanut farm who dies of peanut allergy. He's got individual karma of past killing. That the purest peanuts even will kill him. So collective is just a bunch of people doing things individually. That's one thing, explaining what is here now. Now, what you do with what you've got now, that's the karma you will create for the future. Do you understand? So if what you're doing with what you are in Switzerland, what do you mean you're creating a lot of harm? How are you creating a lot of harm in Switzerland?
Well, I don't want to get too political here.
I know, just say it. Whatever it is. How do you do a lot of harm? Swiss people.
The way we spend money buying cheap foods that are being produced in very...
Okay, there you go. I understand. So then, so we look at that. So that means we look at all the actions we do now, and we can see that collectively our governments and our companies and everything exploit poor people. That's all true. We've got to factor that in. Absolutely we do. It's true. Whether you buy a computer, whether you buy a vegetable, but then we've got to look at the actions we do now and what results they for the future. So because we're so collectively connected, especially globally these days, it's not just a little village. There's much that we have no choice about. So that's why we have to make our choices to be as pure as possible with the purest motivation. And even you could argue, if you go and buy that carrot that came from Brazil because it's cheaper than Swiss carrots, whatever, then at least if you eat the carrot with a pure motivation and try not to harm sentient beings. I mean, it's very complex because we can't control the whole universe, but we can, as much as we can, knowing it's so interconnected, do what we can to stop harming others, but knowing we can't make it all perfect. But have a pure motivation and do the best we can with awareness. Surely. What else could you do? That's it, isn't it, really? Another what? No, you can't run. No, that's a different discussion. No, that's a different discussion, because if that's the right thing for you to do in your particular life, at your particular place in your spiritual path, to give up sex, drugs, and rock and roll and go live in a nunnery, then you do that. That's perfect. But that's just not a question of because you don't want to eat carrots from Brazil. That's just the right thing for you spiritually. Okay, stop saying we. You've got to look at yourself. Because you can't act for Zurich. You can act for yourself.
Every action I take.
Yes.
It
It does have. There's no question, because everything's interdependent. That's exactly right.
And living in Switzerland is very hard to avoid.
Okay, so where would you live where it doesn't have an effect?
We're in a globalized world, so
That's right. That's exactly right, darling. So that's exactly right. So being aware of it is fantastic. Doing what you can politically, socially, in every way to help change things. But we can't make it all perfect. That's not being passive. But you do what you can with the purest motivation and continue on your path doing what you can to stop killing, stop lying, stop stealing, be conscious and grow yourself in this mess so you can come out of this and become a powerful being to help others. Because whatever environment you're going to be in, whether it's 1,000 years ago or now, is always going to be one thing or another, because everything's interdependent. Do you understand? And especially when it comes to the one of killing. I mean, we've got so obsessed with eating food, we don't think about all the consequences for all the creatures who die that we don't eat, who die when we kill our food, So there's so many things we can do, but there's so much we can't do. I mean, just to even eat a purest of carrots that was grown in your backyard with no pesticides and no cheap labour. You kill many creatures in the earth. You can't avoid it. So the more conscious we are of this, the more compassion we'll have, and the more determination on the basis of that compassion. I must continue working on myself to become a better person so I can help others. You've got to do that. There's no choice, Do you understand? Otherwise, you're just going to stop breathing and die. Do you understand? Yeah, the one of eating food is. I think we're so attached to eating. So obsessed with food, I remember we always had this discussion, and I always quote this story on Facebook. Somebody saw a picture of me buying a piece of kick-ass cheddar in a cheese shop in Liverpool about 5 years ago. Kick-ass cheddar. And she was shocked that a Buddhist nun dared to eat cheese, So I didn't want to be political. So I'd always wondered how many creatures die on the road when you just drive cars. So sure enough, Google it, someone's done the homework. So some Dutch fellow has done the research, and I forget all the numbers, but it's just on the number plate. 1 car per kilometre, per this, on one American road, trillions of little creatures smashed to smithereens on the number plate. Real sentient beings like the cow and the chicken. But of course, because if we're the materialist view, we only worry about the cows and the chickens because they look like us, and second, because we eat their flesh. And we're so attached to food, that's too shocking for us. But we don't care about them. So then this same person, well, you mean I shouldn't drive a car? Like as if it doesn't matter. I remember having one conversation with one guy. Oh, but you just can't help that, he said. In other words, they don't care about that. It's very fascinating. You can't avoid, that's a fact. Isn't it? It's a fact. And the other one, this is even more blatant. An Australian scientist in Victoria talked about this particular wheat field, and this must be everywhere, where in the off-season, they're not growing the wheat, millions and millions of these little field mice gather there. And he says they're really cute, and he had photos of them, and they sing love songs to each other. And he thought they were so sweet. And of course, what happens when you have to grow the wheat? 20% for the meat eaters and 80% for the wholly vegans and vegetarians. You slaughter the millions of field mice. But he didn't want to know about that either. Oh, you just can't help that. So as long as you don't eat it, then you're okay, which is really a bit emotional, don't you think? You get my point? So it's bigger than whether you eat a piece of flesh or not, In other words, the point that Buddha's saying, that the nature of this samsara that we live in is in the nature of suffering. Just by existing, we harm. So we've got to find our way out of it with courage, with a pure motivation, doing the best we can. What choice? Do you understand?